for real, we don't know how to act. Yeah, I'm pointing out facts. If I point a finger, that's point of attack. Good point, who's next? Flag on the plate, now I'm causing them death. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live with regret. Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Beat like gas. Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep? Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Watch the middle. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feet the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to episode 39 of the Commanders Gridiron Report, brought to you by
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
It is December 27th, 2 days after Christmas. Those of you out there who celebrate Hanukkah, you are still celebrating. We are live. I am Drew Willingham. Thank you as always for tuning in to this, whether you're watching this live or during the replay. And as always, if this is your first time to the channel, please subscribe, whether you're watching this on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome, or on Team MBS Media. Now, when it comes to coverage for football, we got it here for you for Sertoba Media and Comey Media when it comes to Total Football Talk and Total Football Talk Extra. But right now, it is time for the Commanders Gridiron Report. We got a lot in store for you today. With that said, let's go ahead and take this into the 1st and 10. Get this thing on started.
They are the Washington Commanders. New name, new marks, new uniform.
Soldiers, are we ready for Operation Burgundy?
Here are the 1st and 10. We got to review Week 16 this past Sunday, 1 o'clock's matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles coming into Northwest Stadium to take on the Washington Commanders. In this game, I predicted it last week. It was going to be a one-possession game, and I said the Commanders were going to win. What do you think about my prediction now? I made some pretty close, bold predictions over the weeks, not just involving the Commanders, but other teams within the NFL, and have been right. Been watching a lot of football this year and in the years past. When it comes to this team, the Commanders, I just knew that in order to keep their playoff hopes alive, in order to get that 7th seed tonight, well, not tonight, but in order to get it this season, they were going to have to get the win against Philadelphia at home. The division win was big, not necessarily to win the division because it is the Eagles' division at their hands at this point, but the 7th seed in the wild card. I mean, you've got 10 wins and you're still fighting for the 10th seed. Just goes to show how tough the NFC is as a conference right now, and how you have a team like the Minnesota Vikings who could potentially finish this season 15-2 or 14-3 and be the number 5 seed. That's a lot of wins to have a 5th seed in the playoffs. But with all that being said, Jaden Daniels throws 5 touchdowns to beat the Eagles 36-33, and we've got some highlights to look at in the form of photos here in a minute when it comes to the Burgundy Flex review. But the Eagles come to town, get their expletives whooped by 5 passing touchdowns from Jaden Daniels, what he did in this game this past Sunday against the Eagles. And we've got a game to preview this upcoming Sunday night against the Falcons here later on when it comes to the upcoming opponent of the week. But right here and now, when it comes to the 1st and 10, we just have to acknowledge the fact that Jaden Daniels, old JD, threw 5 touchdowns. Yes, he did have 2 interceptions. We're going to break all that down here shortly in the Burgundy Flex review, but looking at it for what it is, when it comes to this kid coming right out of college, you have to
acknowledge me.
That we will, sir, because you are definitely the best quarterback or the best talent out of this past year's class. And luckily for Washington fans, for Commanders fans, for fans of the formerly known as the Redskins, the Redskins, all of you out there clamoring for the name change, regardless, we've already been up and down about that. We'll see how that comes about. But right here and now, as Commanders fans, those of you who have stuck around, like myself, following the team, covering the team, watching the team, being a fan of this team, whether you live in the area and it's all you have to watch on Fox or not, regardless, I'm just saying, when it comes to this team right here, the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, 5 touchdowns. The kid also has another comeback victory in less than 30 seconds for the second time this year. Looking at it for what it is. I mean, a rookie doing these things. I was in attendance when he did it wearing these jerseys, and I was wearing this jersey on the 10-yard line watching this game when he did it against the Bears. And the Bears have now lost 10 straight games since that moment happened. Man, feel sorry for you Bears fans. Didn't mean to crush your hopes and dreams. Certain things are installed out there with hopes and dreams. And when it comes to that Chicago Bears package, with what they have on offense, defense, special teams, especially after what we saw last night against the Seahawks, this team right here is literally playing on hopes and dreams, and that is the Chicago Bears. But back to the Commanders and what they had this past week in the 1st and 10, as we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles coming to town and getting served that big old fat. Shout out to my man Dante, not really trying to rub it in, just stating the fact. As there were some ugly things that happened within this game. We're going to talk about it here in the Burgundy Flex Review. But for the 1st and 10, old JD, Jaden Daniels, 5 touchdowns. Damn! You know out there that this is not a saga of one of these stories.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
We are not them.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
Now, some of y'all out there might be.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Come on now, you know this is not a total.
Surprise, motherfucker.
When it comes to shenanigery, I come here fully loaded. Those of you who are just now tuning in for the first time.
What's that? What's that?
We are live. You can drop some comments in that chat below, and I'll acknowledge you here on the show as we are live. Thank you for tuning in, whoever you are.
Oh, my brother, testify.
All right, when it comes to this Commanders team, let's go ahead and take it into the Burgundy Flex Review, take a look at some highlights, and break down this game of what happened from start to finish between this Philadelphia Eagles squad and this Washington Commanders team. All that and more here on the Burgundy Flex Review.
Go to my neck, Burgundy Flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Be my guest.
And here at the Burgundy Flex Review, an in-depth look at the highlights from Week 16. Let's start this thing out. Start of the game. Look at old JD leading the pack right here. Trotting onto the field at home. Getting ready to do some work out here, but the work would be done by the Eagles starting the game as they would go up 14-0 here at the beginning. As Saquon Barkley would take in a 2-yard touchdown run with 11 minutes and 15 seconds left in the first quarter. Then A.J. Brown would have a 4-yard pass recepted by Kenny Pickett because at this point, Jalen Hurts was knocked out of the game. This is something that was not predicted, looking at it for what it was, a close game because the Eagles played their hearts out without Jalen Hurts. They played for him in this game. Still a 36-33 contest, and especially when you look at what Saquon did. We'll get to more of that here in a minute. But, starting this game out, we want to see them at their best. And if the Eagles would have been at their best with Jalen Hurts not getting that concussion, I believe they would have won this game. And my prediction would not have gone the way that I had called it for this past week. Don't want to see anybody get hurt. So basically want to lead off with this. He'll be fine. It's definitely not a Tua Tagovailoa situation over there, and I have a lot of faith in him. And he's a great quarterback. Philly's got a great quarterback, kind of like how Washington has a great quarterback with old Jaden Daniels. So I was looking forward to seeing another matchup between Jalen Hurts and old Jaden Daniels, but unfortunately it just didn't work out, as the concussion happened. And a win's a win. Scoreboard's a scoreboard, and we'll break more of that down. But when I just said Kenny Pickett scoring the touchdown, to those of you who didn't see this game, just letting you know, Kenny Pickett, 4-yard pass. He got a touchdown early on. Now, with the Eagles up 14-0, 7 minutes and 8 seconds left, the Commanders get the ball back, and they go on a pretty decent drive. And I want to talk about a man who has been around this team for a little bit. I'm going to talk about old Jamison Crowder. Jamison Crowder has been with the team, has left the team, gone and played at other places, come back, played on the practice squad, been released, picked up again somewhere else, then come back. This man had 2 touchdowns in the game. And he was first in the first quarter. A 6-yard pass from old Jaden Daniels. The Commanders would only be down 14-7 at this point with 3 minutes and 12 seconds left in the first quarter. Now, Saquon Barkley would take another run in for a touchdown. His second on the day in all of this in the first quarter with 2 minutes and 18 seconds left on the ensuing drive from the Commanders on that 6-yard pass from Jamison Crowder. Saquon Barkley had taken a 68-yard rush for a lead of 21-7 for the Eagles. At the end of the first quarter, that's what that score would be, 21-7 the Eagles, and it looked like even without Jalen Hurts at this point, there's a really good chance the Eagles could hold on and get this dub. Well, things would take a shift, especially in the second half, but in the second quarter, it would get started with that, with Terry McLaurin would taking a 32-yard pass from Jaden Daniels right here for the score. A 32-yard touchdown for old Terry McLaurin, for Scary Terry from JD. They would be down 21-14 at halftime. JD would get his legs going in the third quarter, as on the day he had 81 rushing yards, carried the ball 9 times, averaging 9 yards per carry. Man, I tell you what, for a young quarterback to do what he's doing with these RPOs, he's making it look a lot better than what C.J. Stroud was doing in certain cases last year. He just doesn't have as good of a team as what Houston looked like they were at that point from what I'm seeing. But they're clicking on all cylinders at the right time, right here and now when it comes to the Commanders. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but based on what the Houston Texans were last year, the Commanders still have some shoes to fill, and that being in the NFC with some really good teams ahead of them, with like the Lions and the Vikings and much more, and especially this Eagles team that they beat when they're fully healthy with a man named Jalen Hurts, who got knocked out again in the first quarter. Now, in the third quarter after halftime, again, it would be 21-14. The Commanders would be down to the Eagles at that point coming into the second half. And old JD would get his legs going, but it wouldn't be enough to muster up first downs to score in the third quarter, as the Eagles would score twice, but only on field goals, going up 21-14 just at the start of the third quarter. And then with 3 minutes and 11 seconds left in the third quarter, the Eagles score another field goal yet again to go up 27-14. Then going into the fourth quarter, that's when the Commanders would finally wake up, and they would wake up someone who will be facing his former team this upcoming Sunday night, that being from the Atlanta Falcons, Mr. Olamide Zaccheaus, who had 2 touchdowns on the day. We just talked about, someone who had his first of 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, that being Jamison Crowder with that 6-yard pass to help out. But the Commanders being down 27-14 by 2 possessions going into the fourth quarter, they had to do something with that first possession into the fourth if they wanted to have any type of chance of coming back. And Mr. Olamide Zaccheaus had a 4-yard touchdown reception from Jaden Daniels early into the fourth quarter, only like a minute and some change into the fourth quarter, for them to only be down 27-21 with the extra point, as the 2 field goals that they got in the third quarter by the Eagles and Jake Elliott is the only reason why they are not tied at this point and are up by 6 points. After that, you thought he was done, Mr. Zaccheaus, with that 1 touchdown. No, sir. On the next drive, because of Kenny Pickett throwing an interception, You know, we talked about JD earlier, 5 touchdowns, but he did throw 2 interceptions. But Kenny Pickett threw a costly one here in the fourth quarter, which would give the Commanders the ball back not long after they scored to make it 27-21. They would score again on the next drive, with Zacchaeus scoring again, but this time on a 49-yard reception and a touchdown pass from JD to go up 28-27 with the Zane Gonzalez extra point. I tell you what, these Commanders have been gritty this year, coming back, especially since that Bears come from behind Hail Mary game. Then again, I gloat if you say it, but I was there. I had a great spot too. Go back and watch that episode. I talked so much about it, but man, this gives me goosebumps talking about it again, just thinking about that, because this is very similar to that. As with Zacchaeus' touchdown, they go up 28-27 with 9:06 left in the game in the fourth quarter. Well, for when it's all said and done, it's going to be a close one, you're thinking at this point. Because the Eagles would score again, is in the second half, all they could do was score field goals, because in the third quarter, Jake Elliott had a 24-yard and a 40-yard field goal. In the fourth quarter, he kicked a 50-yard field goal with 3 minutes and 48 seconds left. And then on the next drive, because Jaden Daniels threw his second of 2 interceptions, gave the ball back to the Eagles, and Jake Elliott hit a 40-yard field goal for them to go up by 5 points, 33-28. Commanders get the ball. And just like you're looking at this Bears game when they're playing at home, it's getting dark. It's a 4 o'clock game. It's like 7 or so outside, 7 p.m. Eastern time. The lights are on. It's cooking. Even though it wasn't quite that late here at Northwest Stadium this past weekend, there's 6 seconds left on the clock when they finally score a second of 2 touchdowns recepted by Jamison Crowder on the day. A 9-yard pass from old JD, his 5th touchdown of the day on a 2-point conversion by Jeremy McNichols. This 2-point right here. They go up 36-33. And before that, again, let's take a look at these other photos, because I was talking about it, but I forgot to go through this part with Zacchaeus. One of his 2 touchdowns right here, right there at the end. The team celebrating his touchdown all together right here. And then Jamison Crowder with his touchdown, his second of 2 touchdowns right here to give them the lead with 6 seconds left in the game. He celebrates as he just came off the practice squad not too long ago with the crowd at home. He's been through a lot, bounced to other teams. His second, third, or fourth stint with this team after being on practice squad many, many years ago, and again recently bouncing around to the Jets and many other teams. But again, on the 2-point conversion from that touchdown, this team goes up 36-33 with 6 seconds left. And a kick, a little squibber later, end the clock. This game would end a 36-33 score after that 2-point conversion on that drive. JD walks off the field right here feeling like he's on the road to glory at some point in his career with this franchise. It may not be 2024. It may not be 2025, but at some point, old JD is going to lead a team like he did today into the promised land. Before the end of this decade, I believe it's going to happen. As long as him and this guy stay together and they stay healthy, old Scary Terry. Because between the RPOs and the passing game and the culture that they are building in the locker room, you have to believe in this team. You have to believe in Jaden Daniels. And especially seeing this guy, an old face, back in the locker room, doing what he's doing in scoring 2 touchdowns. He's primarily a punt returner. That's what he's mainly known for in his time with this team and with other teams, playing special teams on punt returns, sometimes on kick returns, but mainly punt returns. So looking at what he's doing here for the team and getting 2 receiving touchdowns on offense, that's huge. This guy doing huge things without Austin Eckler right now in that second hole, that being McNichols, doing great things, and it's all being led by this guy right here. This has been fun to watch for your Commanders fan. 10-5 this team is at this point. And I know there are many of you like myself out here at this point in the year with 2 games left for them to play again.
Surprise, motherfucker. What?
You know it. You know you did not call for them to be 10-5 right now at this point earlier in the year. Neither did I. I was hoping to be 9-8, and they have already exceeded that. No matter what, if they lose the next 2 games, they finish higher than my expectations for the season. But they're not going to finish they're not going to lose both games. They're going to win 1 out of 2. We'll talk more about that, and they could win 2 out of 2. But and we'll see how I feel about that here in a little bit. But when it comes to the Burgundy Flex review, the in-depth look with all those photos, between the scoring throughout the quarters, when you look at the stats throughout the game too, Saquon Barkley, 29 carries for 150 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Insane, and you don't win the game. Usually numbers like that by your running back, or even collectively between multiple running backs, you're winning the game because you controlled the clock, you managed your offense well, and if your defense that you're facing is giving you that kind of yardage, usually it results in the scores like it did with 2 touchdowns. And the fact that Kenny Pickett early on in the game, very, very early on, connected with A.J. Brown for that 1 passing touchdown. I mean, it's good for A.J. Brown and fantasy owners out there, and it's good for people out there who like the Eagles. But it was like false hope towards the end because Kenny Pickett, 14-24, 143 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 1 interception. In comparison to old Jaden Daniels, 24-39, 258 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns. Again, did have 2 interceptions, but the 5 passing touchdowns definitely offset it when you think of the 9 carries for 81 yards as well. Mr. Zacchaeus, another big contributor in the game, 5 receptions for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. And again, I want to bring up Mr. Man of the day, Mr. Man from back in the day, Jamison Crowder, who has 2 receptions in this game for only 15 yards, but musters 2 touchdowns out of both of those catches. Huge day for him. Outside of Jaden Daniels, though, the running attack kind of scares me a little bit because collectively they had 32 yards on 15 carries. It's averaging like a little over 2 yards per carry between Brian Robinson Jr., Chris Rodriguez Jr., and Jeremy McNichols. The only highlight for the running backs was that Jeremy McNichols 2-point conversion that he had on that Jamison Crowder go-ahead touchdown with 6 seconds left in the game. So if it wasn't for that, they would have had a very, very quiet day. Terry McLaurin, again, 5 receptions, 60 yards on the day. And De'Ami Brown had 4 receptions for 56 yards to help move the chains and set up some of these scoring plays. The defense, Frankie Louvu still playing very well and leading this defense like a captain that he is. 3 tackles, 4 assists, and an interception that was what he has for his team over there on defense. Marshawn Lattimore also doing pretty well over there in the secondary to help fill that void that they have needed to fill for quite some time, for many years. 3 tackles, 1 assist, doesn't have any turnovers, but he does scare the quarterbacks away from throwing in his direction. Cleveland Farrell adds a sack for defense. Jalen Holmes, Dante Fowler Jr. also have sacks, along with Jerzon Newton. This team altogether had 4 sacks on the day, and that 1 interception by Frankie Louvu, doing their job to hold the Eagles. I know giving up 33 points is a lot, but it's not completely on the defense. You got to look at what the weapons are that the Eagles have. They just didn't have a consistent player in Kenny Pickett, who was throwing on the mother, father, and football. But right here and now, for this Burgundy Flex review, what do you think? Those of you out here watching this thing live, let me know here in the comments. As we're about to go to our first commercial break, when we come back, we still have the Soldiers of the Week, which is our MVPs from this past game. The Showstopper, where we talk about the adjustments they need to make. The Opponent of the Week, which is what they have for this upcoming week. And the final drive with the closing thoughts heading into Week 17. All that and more on this edition of the Commanders Gridiron Report, brought to you by
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Whether it's news, The largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant. Weather. Devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States. Inspiration. A breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central.
Ladies and gentlemen, hey, look, hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign DWillie87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen, stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. Some Willie Bucks.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Drew Willingham.
In this case, yeah, you put the blame on Kyle Shanahan for apparently not preparing the team enough for the overtime rules, supposedly.
Cole Johnson.
Peyton was considered the winner, and he was the darling of all darlings for Gerald.
With a special appearance by Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Ain't nobody calling me. Text delete, 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 delete.
Join these two football enthusiasts as they give you Total Football Talk. Live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central on the Sertoba Media and the Comey Media YouTube channels.
Commanders, where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders, where my soldiers? Left side.
Welcome back to Commanders Gridiron Report, episode 39. We are back on December 27th, 2024, the last episode of this year, as we talk about Jaden Daniels throwing 5 touchdowns to beat the Eagles 36-33 this past week, here on episode 39, brought to you by
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Thank you, as always, for tuning in to the Commanders Gridiron Report, again brought to you by Sertoba Media, as we are here for episode 39. We've gone through the first 2 segments and our first commercial break. Let's go ahead and take this into the comments section, as it looks like we do have one commenter here. Ike is in the house over here on Sertoba saying, yo! He said that TFT episode Monday was epic. Well, I appreciate you, tuning in there, sir. As let me make sure my background comes up. A little bit of technical difficulties there, but thank you for tuning in there, Ike, over there for the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. And it looks like I do have that slide right here. Yes, if you did not go see that episode this past week, the Total Football Talk episode this past Monday, the Cowboys won't see the Super Bowl for the 29th consecutive season. And I think on this computer here, if I'm not mistaken, I think I even have a little sneak peek for this thing right here, because I tell you what, this thing was absolutely wild when you look at Still Them Boys and how, I'm probably going to have to chop this part out later or cut it out right before it plays the music, but you'll see. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about here in a second. I'm going to upload this unit so that way you can see for yourself when it comes to the Cowboys in this episode for Still Them Boys. Because are they still them boys? Who knows? After this past year, who knows if they are still them boys? As this video processes, it's only like a minute long. It shouldn't take long to process up in this mother father. But this episode, I tell you what, was pretty mother father and epic. If you have not seen it, episode 69, ironic number, let's take a look at this clip real quick. Still them boys. For those of you out there who are fans of this team right here.
Ain't nobody calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, are you still involved? Delete! 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 You guys want to hear a fucking story?
Story is this. Cowboys won't see the Super Bowl for the 29th consecutive season. You can
Acknowledge me.
for this graphic right here. Based on the past 29 years, is this a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
You can't handle the truth.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
Make sure you go back and watch that episode on Sertoba Media or Comey Media out there on YouTube or all your major platforms if you want to check out the shenanigans within that clip and much more on that show. Total Football Talk Extra will actually be after this episode. I will be going live one more time this afternoon. When it comes to this episode, we have to talk about LeBron James says Christmas Day is for the NBA and not the NFL. I think he needs to.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
Even though Yo King over there is saying,
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
we'll talk about that in the holiday games in the past couple of days and more on Total Football Talk Extra here in a little bit after this episode is complete. And I take probably a 15-minute break in between. But here and there, when it comes to the first two segments, we've gone through them. Let's go ahead and get to our next one, which is the Soldiers of the Week, where we break down our MVPs from this past week's contest. Week 16, Eagles versus Commanders. Who are the Soldiers of the Week? Let's find out.
Where my soldiers, right side, Commanders. Where my soldiers, left side.
And here for the Soldiers of the Week, acknowledging the standouts from Week 16. And before we do that, let's acknowledge the standouts in the chat. Sick Diggy is here saying happy holidays, folks. Well, happy holidays to you there, brother. As well as Jimmy Butler, shout out to you all the way. JD, way better than Caleb. Well, okay. Well, I guess we'll see. No, way better than Caleb. Oh, yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, with the fingernails. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Jimmy Butler. I see what you're saying over there with the fingernails and the little satchel that he has. I see the little wordplay there. There, you got me. You got him. Got his ass is what happened in that moment where I read that. So you know what? Shout out to Jimmy Butler for the wordplay. Straight got him. Hopefully they gave you a good little laugh right here and there.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Acknowledge me.
There it is. Jimmy Butler with the wordplay. Now, when it comes to that, where's the velvet football cake? Well, when it comes to the velvet football cake, I'm not going to have velvet football cake for this one there, Sick Diggy, as this game that we're reviewing right now is not, well, when we talk about Total Football Talk here in a little bit for extra, we'll have the red velvet cake. But for this episode, we're not going to have red velvet cake tonight because going back to this game right here for this Soldiers of the Week platform, let's go ahead and acknowledge the team that lost. Let's go ahead and give some awards to that team because they played their hearts out. I mean, they should have won, and with Jalen Hurts, they would have won this game. Saquon Barkley, 29 carries for 150 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, along with A.J. Brown's performance of 8 receptions for 97 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown, outside of that 1 receiving touchdown that he had for 4 yards. He had 7 receptions for 93 yards, which helped set up first downs and other plays for this team, like when Saquon was getting his 2 rushing touchdowns. A.J. Brown played his part, and that's why I got to put him up here as a Soldier of the Week for the Eagles. And for their defense, I got to give it to Reed Blankenship. At least one shout out to them, because the rest of their offense, Devontae Smith was kind of quiet. Everybody else on offense, and Kenny Pickett was just absolutely trash. I mean, let's just acknowledge that for what it is.
Acknowledge me.
I mean, come on. Kenny Pickett is the reason why you took this. Shall I remind you, 14 completions out of 24 attempts for 143 passing yards. One passing touchdown, which was the 1 4-yard pass to A.J. Brown that A.J. Brown needed to have. Okay. But he had one interception, which was costly in the fourth quarter for his team. So, I would say Kenny Pickett is the reason why they lost. But I have to give a shout-out to these guys, as they are the reason why this was a 3-point contest and why it came down to the wire with the Commanders like they did against the Bears earlier in October. Now, I want to give a shout-out and an honorable mention to Jamison Crowder for an honorable mention of the Soldier of the Week. Not an actual Soldier of the Week, but a shout-out, because he did have one punt return for 5 punt return yards, okay? And that's a big deal, because they forced the Eagles to actually punt, okay? And it was only one punt, and he secured it for 5 yards. Now, again, the big things that he did in this game was he had 2 receptions. I know you're saying, Drew, what the hell are you talking about? 2 receptions being big. Well, those 2 motherfathering touchdowns where it came from those 2 receptions. And even though he only put up 15 motherfathering yards, looking like an absolute scrub in the statistical numbers, he put up 2 receptions with 2 touchdowns on those 2 receptions. And for that, you need to
acknowledge me.
Not me, him. Come on now, don't you get angry at me.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
Was that a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
just joshing you out here in these streams? When it comes to Jamison Crowder, again, he deserves an honorable mention because of the path it took him to get back to this Washington franchise, being with this team several times. And I mean more than once, more than twice, like 3 or 4 times. Getting diced down to the practice squad, leaving the team, going to other teams, getting to their practice squad, getting picked up by other teams, bouncing around in training camp, making his way back, getting cut again, getting signed to the practice squad, and making his way back into the games for this franchise. He deserves an honorable mention, especially when he's mainly a punt returner, a special teams contributor, and he had 2 receptions on offense that happened to be for 2 touchdowns, because you have decoys around you like Terry McLaurin and company. They need to get one more weapon during the offseason, and I feel like in the next year or 2, they could be a dangerous team. We are seeing the birth of that team this year. They'll get that 7th seed. They'll get into the playoffs, and they may win a first game, but then they will not get past the wild. After they win the wild card game, they will not get past the division round. That is my prediction so far, but that could change in the next couple of weeks. But for this guy to be a part of it when he's been a part of those teams that absolutely sucked, and the people were doing this to him. I'm just happy to see him be a part of something that's special and something in the beginning stages of a rebuild gone right that you pray for when you do something like you did this past year and you blow it up with new management. You got new ownership, new backing, new culture, everything. That's what you hope for when you do this with a franchise, and the long-awaited dividends are now finally paying off for those of you who stayed loyal. So everybody out there who's talking bad about our team, that would be a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
Because they would need to
Stop it. Get some help.
if they just can't accept that we're going to come up there, face your team, and at some point going to be consistently serving up these to you.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
In the spirit of the holidays and the best Christmas movie of all time, that being Die Hard. Shout out to Bruce Willis, fighting the good fight out there with his illness. I miss seeing you in movies, my man. And to our main topic of Soldiers of the Week, these are my 3 picks from the Commanders of who I have as the Soldiers of the Week. Let's start off with Terry McLaurin, 5 receptions for 60 yards and a receiving touchdown. Now, when we look at what he's done throughout this season, it's been great. This is another year where Terry puts up great numbers within a season, another 1,000-yard season after this past game with the Eagles. It's 1,029 yards, but another year with 1,000 yards, 6,000 yards for his career, 6,300 yards for his career inside of those 6 years in the league. He also, on the year, in this total year, has 12 touchdowns. When you look at what he's done in his overall career, for his career with the Commanders, looking at the touchdown to reception ratio throughout the 6 seasons for his, now look, Terry McLaurin, 6 years, only getting better with age each and every single year, and has found a way, except for his rookie year where he was only 81 yards shy of getting 1,000 yards. He now has, 5 consecutive years of 1,000-yard seasons with different quarterbacks at the helm, and it looks like he's finally found his partner in crime with Jaden Daniels. But this year with Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin has the most touchdowns he's had in a season with 12. The most he had before this one was 7, which was his rookie season. He's looking to double that with 2 games left, potentially get to 14 or more, and double what he did in his rookie year as far as touchdowns. The most receiving yards he has in a season is 1,191, which he did in 2022. And it looks like if everything goes right, he will eclipse that within the last 2 games. Terry McLaurin is going to have his best season as far as yardage, as far as touchdowns. Even his longest reception for a touchdown is his best this year. An 86-yard reception for a touchdown is what he had from old JD earlier in said year. Doesn't have any fumbles. It doesn't have any turnovers for Terry McLaurin. You gotta pay attention to that out there if you are anybody within sports, whether you're a fan of this team or not. Shout out to Terry McLaurin for his streak that he has had with these touchdowns. I want to go on that rant about him for a second because he has absolutely been impressing me over these games for this Washington Commanders team. You look at this game right here, 5 receptions, 60 yards. It's pretty average with the touchdown, but it's the contribution that matters. The week before, when he played the Saints, he had 2 touchdowns, 7 receptions for 73 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's 3 touchdowns in 2 weeks. The week before, or the game before that, which was right before their bye, he had 8 receptions for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns there. So literally in the past 3 games, Terry McLaurin has 5 receiving touchdowns. And then you add the Cowboy game, 6 touchdowns in the past 4 games. Going back to the Eagles game where he struggled, where that was the last game where this offense truly struggled because Jaden Daniels in that game against the Eagles only threw for 191 yards and a touchdown and an interception. Compare that to these stats right here that you see from this past Sunday with 258 yards. Yes, he did throw twice the amount of interceptions, but he threw 5 times the amount of touchdowns on a defense that has been very good this year to go along with that great offense from what we've seen when Jalen Hurts is in the ballgame. Brian Robinson Jr. also had a decent running game on that day, which it flip-flopped on this day in Week 16. So we'll have to see if they match up again in the playoffs, if they can overcome that, and if things work out for them. But at least they've proven that they can beat this team. And Jaden Daniels with 24 of 39 for completions out of attempts for 258 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, along with those 9 carries for 81 rushing yards, averaging 9 yards per rush. I mean, look at this, guys. How can you not put him at the top of this Soldiers of the Week list? Along with a man who's going to be facing his former team this weekend when he plays the Atlanta Falcons, Olamide Zaccheaus. 5 receptions, 70 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns to match up with the honorable mention of Jamison Crowder. But at least here, there's a lot more padded numbers to go along with it, with 3 additional receptions for an additional 55 yards on top of it in comparison to this guy right here. But the story behind Jamison Crowder and these touchdowns, I feel like overshadows this a little bit too. So they counterbalance each other out. One has more yardage, the other has a better story. Eagles winning that previous game 26-18, and since that game and then losing to the Cowboys right after that, where they were coming off of their 3rd straight loss after losing to the Steelers, then the Eagles, and the Cowboys, the Commanders have now won 3 games in a row, and it's all on the backs of these players, primarily Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin here in this photo. When you look at the Soldiers of the Week, who do you think? Did I get it right? Let me know out here in these comments. We'll go ahead and acknowledge what you guys have to say out here in the comments real quick. It's not a surprise, just like how Netflix had a better connection with the Houston Texans NRG Stadium. NRG Stadium on Christmas Day compared to the Dallas Cowboys AT&T Stadium in November. Yes, very much so. When it comes to the Netflix, they had a better connection with the Houston Texans. I mean, I'm going to talk more about that on the episode of Total Football Talk Extra after this episode of the Commanders Gridiron Report, because I got a lot to say about that one. And as always, this is your first time watching this on whatever channel you're watching it on. Subscribe now and never miss out on new content between myself and my colleagues out here in these streams. Jaden Daniels and Saquon Barkley, respective performances, should keep their hopes alive for the league MVP honors. And Saquon's, especially because of the amount of yardage he put up, and this team right here, I mean, the Eagles have gotten to the point of where they're at 12-3 with him. They wouldn't be there without Saquon Barkley and putting up these type of numbers. And some would argue they should be 13-2 right now. Jalen Hurts was in there, but shoulda, coulda, woulda. Unfortunately, he wasn't playing, and we saw the results of what we saw from this past week. Crowder's stats don't do him justice. He contributed to the team when it counted. He'll have a good spot in the Commanders' rotation of wide receivers. And that's as long as he stays healthy, because he's gotten banged up at certain points in the past too. But Jameson Crowder's been with the franchise for so long. He was there when they were the Redskins and the football team, now the Commanders. All the name changes Crowder was there for. Another receiver means another option for Jaden Daniels passing. Absolutely. And don't forget about a new attitude and team philosophy that's turning this organization around. Absolutely, they're sick. And the passing game shows that the receivers are putting the team before individual stats. Very unselfish football. Absolutely there, brother. And again, subscribe now and never miss out on new content, depending on whichever channel you're watching on, Team MBS or Sertoba. Subscribe to that channel if this is your first time tuning in. Now, when it comes to the Soldiers of the Week, that does it for the MVPs of this past week for Week 16. Let's go ahead and take it into the Showstopper, where we talk about the improvements this team can make based on that game that they had as we get closer to previewing the game against the Atlanta Falcons here with the Showstopper.
I off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feed the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
And here with the Showstopper, what can they do to improve from the Week 16 win? And of course, whether it's a win or a loss, you have to take a look at a game and be able to dissect it and say there's certain elements to the game that we can't keep doing like this consistently and expect to win. And the first one that I'm going to start off with is the running attack outside of Jaden Daniels. It's kind of like what the Ravens were doing years ago before they were able to establish a running back core with what they were working with Justice Hill before, and J.K. Dobbins before J.K. Dobbins got hurt, and what ultimately led to getting Derrick Henry. That team has established a really great running game and has a really good offensive line to protect them and Lamar right now. The Commanders still need to make some more moves within the offensive line, which I believe they will get that done this offseason. And, they need a couple more weapons on the offense to kind of help build around what they've been doing now. another tight end, in my opinion, because Zach Ertz isn't going to be able to do it forever. I believe they can get another year or two out of him, but they need to get somebody else along with Sanat to get ready to where they can run those two options. Have Sanat and somebody else that's new. I would love to have Brock Bowers right now if I were a Commanders fan, who's over there with the Raiders doing some good things. But right here and now, when it comes to this episode, when it comes to old JD and what he can do to improve from throwing 5 touchdowns to beat the Eagles. We talk about the running game. Looking at what they did in this game, outside of what Jaden Daniels did for 9 carries for 9 carries for 81 yards, didn't score any touchdowns. Between Ryan Robinson Jr., Chris Rodriguez Jr., and Jeremy McNichols, they carried the ball 15 times for a total of 32 yards. 15 times for 32 yards. I know you're playing the Eagles, but you cannot do that as a playoff team and expect to get a win. I mean, you run the ball like that. I know Jaden Daniels made it to where they tipped over 100 yards rushing. Congratulations. But my point to this is you got to get more out of your running backs outside of just your quarterback, because every single time he runs, he puts himself in danger, even though he's sliding and making better decisions than Tua, okay? Because Tua plays inept at times and forgets how to slide, or at least the way to slide. Don't even get me started with Tua right now. When it comes to JD, I have more confidence in his ability to run and be safe about it than Tua over there in Miami before the concussions. He's just a reckless runner. JD is not. But what he needs to do is he needs to protect the ball a little bit better. One of those interceptions that he threw this past week was tipped. So one of those interceptions I don't even blame him for, because it was a good pass. Just happened to be defended right. The next one, he did throw it into some bad coverage for him to be throwing it into, and gave the ball away, and it also kept the Eagles into it. Had he not thrown the interceptions, the Commanders should have won this game easily by 10-plus points because of Kenny Pickett in there absolutely sucking, throwing 14 completions out of 24 attempts for like 140 yards and getting a touchdown and an interception. And it took Jaden Daniels 5 passing touchdowns to come back, and another one inside of 30 seconds like he did against the Bears for the Hail Mary game. Not quite that dramatic, but still a drive to do something similar, with leading a team to a comeback win inside the fourth quarter, inside the last 2 minutes, and inside the last 30 seconds, under a minute. Things that rookies have not done before. So, looking at it for what it is, Jaden Daniels, in comparison to Kenny Pickett was absolute trash in comparison to him, and you need to get Jalen Hurts back in there, Eagles fans. Even though you've got a guaranteed playoff spot, you get the Lions up there chomping at the bit for number 1, and the Vikings on their heels too, depending on how these last 2 games go. We could see a shift from the 5 spot to the 1 with the Vikings and the Lions because of them being in the same division. Just depends on how it plays out, but I think the Lions end up still taking it. I'm back and forth on it each day. Right now, I still have the Lions representing the NFC in the Super Bowl no matter how they get into the playoffs. I don't care if they get knocked down to the 5 seed and get pissed off and have to make some type of comeback and bite kneecaps for 4 straight games towards a Lombardi trophy, okay? Or they get the first round bye, which they really need for the rest and the potential opportunity of Aiden Hutchinson to come back by the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. It all starts with that bye week. They need that extra time to make sure they get to the next round. So with the Lions, we'll see what happens between now and in the playoffs. We'll see what happens with the Commanders. But with the Showstopper, again, you got to get more than 15 carries for 32 yards. 15 carries, decent amount of collective running, but you are facing an Eagles defense that is pretty good against the run. But the last game, you did really good collectively against them, even though you took the loss. So this recipe might have worked in this game, but you were also playing against your backup quarterback for the other team that's not good, that hasn't had that many reps, and is the backup over there in Philly for a reason, instead of starting in Pittsburgh where he was before, where they gave up on him. So here and now, JD, my hero of the game, but he needs to improve by protecting the ball a little bit better for one of those 2 turnovers and continuing to protect himself and try to find more ways to include his running game outside of himself. And with the RPOs, do a little bit more pitch plays to your running back instead of running it yourself. Because you can always pitch it back to you, flea flicker, and then you throw it. What do you think about that? Going back to 1947, out here in these streets, out here in these fields. You do that, JD. You don't always have to run. I just want to see you play more than just this year. Speaking of which, speaking of playing, we'll see what we got out here in the comments. 6 says, this team's strength will be in the depth of its roster, how the running backs and the wide receivers, tight ends can share the load on the offense. Absolutely. And it's going to take some more acquisitions during the offseason, potentially not just in 2025, but for 2026 as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they build, but they don't have the team to make a strong run this year. I believe they can get in as a 7 seed. I believe they can upset with a win in the first round against the 2 seed, which could be the Eagles like they did this past week. And then in the division round, they're going to face a tough matchup like the Lions or whoever, Vikings or whoever, and get thumped and not go to the NFC Championship game. I don't see them going to the championship game this year. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. They just don't have the weapons right now, but they're close. They're building something special, and you can't get mad at what you're seeing over here, out here in Northwest Stadium. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and see what else. Another comment. Subscribe now and never miss out on new content. Thank you, Stream Elements, for reminding everybody, if they're new, to subscribe to either Team MBS Media or the brand known as
Surtoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
The only thing we are missing in this program is Sick Diggy's ad reads. Definitely missing Sick Diggy's ad reads. Hopefully he can throw one out there here for the last part of this show that I can read, and then have a couple for Total Football Talk Extra, which should be following shortly after this episode 39 of Commanders Gridiron Report. Stay tuned, as we will be back from our last commercial break here in just a couple minutes to preview the opponent of the week for week 17. And then we have the final thoughts and the final drive. All that and more on this edition of the Commanders Gridiron Report.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason Whitlock.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ DWillie87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Surtoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commanders Gridiron Report. If you want your Commanders to be repped right, well, D. Willie is your man. Commanders Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, 12:05 a.m. Central on the Surtoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J.KUL.
Where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side. Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left
Welcome back to Commanders Gridiron Report. I'm your host, Drew Willingham. We are back here on December 27th, 2024 for episode 39. As we've discussed, Daniels throws 5 touchdowns to beat the Eagles 36-33 in Week 16 for this team known as the Commanders. This game, this review, this preview of Week 17 and the Falcons are all brought to you by
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Again, I'm your host, Drew Willingham. We got 2 more segments to go through for this episode, and let's get them kicking off with the opponent of the week.
Look how we step, Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep?
And yes, this game is at home for the Commanders, who are 10-5, hosting the 8-7 Falcons. Falcons still have a shot at making the 7th seed for the NFC. Winning their division is also at the helm for this team. Looking at the Falcons, the tales that they have had from the year with Kirk Cousins coming back from that injury, from the torn Achilles with the Vikings, getting that $100+ million guarantee contract, going to the Falcons, get through 14 games, they're 7-7, they're winning, and they bench him in favor of the rookie Michael Penix Jr. They have a chance, not at the wild card, they have a chance to win their division right now at 8-7, as they control their own destiny. If they win out, they win the division. So it would hurt the Commanders in their wild card spot, as a team that is better on paper in the Commanders, who were 10-5, are playing for a wild card spot in comparison to the Falcons, who are 8-7, playing for a division. This goes to show that there's different calibers of teams within different divisions, whether it be in the NFC or the AFC conferences. And the NFC East is definitely a tough one. When you look at how, if the Cowboys would have won a week or 2 earlier and started their run to come back towards a positive record, we could have 3 teams from the NFC East potentially vying for playoff spots and seeding right now. But shoulda, coulda, woulda, we've also talked about that in the past. But right now, for the opponent of the week, the Atlanta Falcons, Week 17, this Sunday night football contest is going to be in prime time, NBC and Peacock. You can watch this game. The 10-5 Commanders host another home game, their final home game of the season, as they go to Jerry World for the final game to play the Cowboys. They absolutely need this win, not just for their playoff hopes for the 7th seed, but to keep themselves in good momentum for this game against the Cowboys, because the Cowboys have been rocking and rolling. You would hope that the Cowboys win and become 8-8 going into this, to be an even more meaningful game for them going into Week 18. And the Commanders can win their 2nd game in a row to be at 12-5 going into the playoffs, with the Cowboys getting a bittersweet 8-9 finish to the year. And the Falcons, unfortunately, a part of that same club, but they would be 9-8 on the other side and still have a potential to win their division over the Buccaneers, depending on how they finish in these past 2 games. So between the Falcons and the Bucs, both 8-7 teams, both in the division, and they both have a chance at winning it, looking like dumpster Pelicans in comparison to this Commanders team.
You can't handle the truth!
While some of you out there are saying,
that's terrible.
I mean, it is terrible when you have an 8-7 team that's fighting for a 4th seed in the conference to get a good game, when the Commanders are fighting for a 7th seed with 10 wins. Potentially will have 11 or 12 wins as the number 7 seed, at best 6th seed, depending on how the remainder of these last 2 weeks go. But at least we can say it is not this story right here.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
When it comes to the Cowboys and Gerald, because They have seen more of these than win.
Let me talk to you.
You know I got to get it in while I can. I got to get the digs in while I can because they still have a losing record at 7-8 right now. And they could potentially win this weekend when they have their games for this upcoming Week 17 contest. For said Cowboys, for said Commanders, which we're going to get to my prediction of the score here in just a second between the Falcons and the Commanders as we are live. Drop some comments here in the chat, whether you're watching on Sartoba Media or Team MBS Media, as we are live right now for this. Cowboys and Eagles. Eagles coming off a tough loss, depending on what Jalen Hurts' status is. I have not heard anything outside of him being in concussion protocol. Depending on his status for the game, if he can actually perform and perform at his level will depend on what the outcome is. If it's the Cowboys versus the Eagles, and especially with the Cowboys wanting to do damage to end the year on a high note, especially to hurt the Eagles, you know, I could see the Cowboys winning that game to be 8-8 going against the Commanders in Week 18. So, for what it is, I think the Commanders going into this game right here with the Falcons know that, and they're going to be playing a much tougher Cowboys team potentially in Week 18 than what they will be facing in the Falcons for Week 17. So this is where they really have to turn on the Jets. You got, you know, Terry McLaurin, who's scored, 5 touchdowns. I just talked about 6 touchdowns in the past 3 games. You got to get the ball to him. You got to establish the ball with Brian Robinson Jr., which I believe you can. Outside of Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts, and I know you got, some weapons over there with wide receiver as well. I just don't think that the Falcons all together collectively have it offensively with Penix right now to do what Jaden Daniels is doing. Had they drafted Penix like they did with Jaden Daniels, and he came in and had somebody like a Sam Darnold or somebody of that caliber to show him the ropes to start the year like Mariota did, and then you have Penix starting the year like JD did to get the feel for the team. The first few weeks were bumpy, but then he started to find his groove. You might not be in the spot that you are right now as a playoff potential team, a playoff by winning a division as your 4th seeded division in the NFC, but at least you would get him some more experience for next year, because I just don't think going against a Commanders team that's red hot at this point, beating the number 2 team in the NFC, that being the Eagles right now, right behind the Lions. And if you want to get technical, even though they're the wild card team, the Vikings are a better team on paper than the Eagles. So a top 3 team in the entire NFC, top 5 team in the entire NFL. You beat this past week. You're on a high momentum, especially coming off of the consecutive wins that you have now against the coming off against the wins against the Titans, which in the Saints, which are dumpster Pelican teams. You needed to win this game against a team that's above 500 and a team that's competing for the playoff run of 2025 for a Lombardi Trophy, which the Eagles were the big test. Playing them twice a year is big, and also not having their starting quarterback in there was big for you too. So looking at it for what it is, that is what I have right there for the start of this with the Falcons and the Commanders. The Commanders need to establish a better run than what they did this past week against the Eagles. JD needs to be smarter with the football like we talked about in the showstopper. But for my actual prediction, I don't think the Falcons come into Northwest Stadium and leave with the win. Nope, you got that right. Despite the players they have around them, yes, they do have some hot weapons on offense, but they haven't been consistent, which is why they are just above 500 with 1 win. 1 win above 500, that being the Atlanta Falcons right now. Compare and contrast with what JD has done over there in an entire season through 15 games, building a rapport with them, the chemistry, getting everything flowing since that Hail Mary game, which I still will never forget for the remainder of my life, and the fact that I was there to see literal history that day then and see the birth of something truly special, the true birth in the true day where things were really clicking, even though it took a comeback from behind win for them to do that, which set the Bears on 10 straight losses and the Commanders to be at a point now to where they're 10-5. 10-5 with 2 games left against this said Falcons team and the Cowboys on January 5th, 2 days before my birthday. I got to say this. I got to say I'm predicting the Falcons to lose. They are going to lose by 10 or more points. That's what I feel like is going to happen in this game. The Commanders are going to make a statement here for their 11th win of the year, improve to an 11-5 record. And I think they're going to win. Let's say they win 35-24. That's my final score prediction for the Falcons and the Commanders this Sunday night in Northwest Stadium. I'm still making a few phone calls. It would be a surprise to myself and others if I am in attendance. I'm looking at tickets and looking at people and my friends in the area who could potentially throw up some dough, potentially go with me. And that has been communicated over the past day. So if you want to throw yourself in the hat, if you're local around here, and whether it be offering the vehicle to drive or half on the tickets or whatever, figuring this out over the next 24 hours. I'm trying to go to this game Sunday night, since it's a Sunday night game, and I am off from work on Monday for my last PTO day of the year. I'm taking it, and I want to try to go. So I might have this figured out by the end of the night. I might be at another historical moment in a night game I've never been to as a fan under the lights in the NFL. In media, yes, but not as a fan. So I want to do it. Final score prediction again. Commanders win this game 35-24, or I will say 38-27. It's one of those two. 50-50. 38-27 or 35-24. That's my two predictions for the final score, like a lottery, like you're playing the lottery and having two cards filled out. What do you think here for the opponent of the week? Do you agree with me when it comes to that there, Sick Diggy? I see your comments. I will read the ad reads here in the final drive. Will the Falcons be weighed down by Kirk Cousins' heavy chains when they come to the DMV? I don't think so, because he's been a good teammate. There's been nothing negative spoken about him. He's always been a good teammate, even during those years when it was him and RG3 at the beginning and going back and forth ever since RG3's injury and who was going to start and who wasn't. Shout out to him for learning the ropes then and being a part of that now. So I don't think that he's done in the NFL, but as far as the number one go-to starter for this year, unless something happens to Penix and they're in our run and they have to put him in, it could be kind of like that situation for Peyton Manning with the Denver Broncos in his last year, where they set him down for a few weeks. And then they put Kirk Cousins in for the playoff experience in week one just so they get to the playoffs, and they go on a run. He wins a Super Bowl and retires. What kind of craziness would that be in Atlanta if that happened? It's very far-fetched, and it's not happening. I'm sorry. Detroit's going to whoop you before you even get to that point. And even if Minnesota even gets far enough and you got to play them, you're going to get whooped by them too. So I'm sorry. It's not happening. But right here and now, that's a good question there from Sick Diggy. The playoff hunt is pretty interesting. Not just about securing a spot in the postseason, but where one team's fit in the postseason schedule. Yes, but where one team's fits in the postseason schedule. Absolutely. I mean, having the 5th seed and the 6th seed and the 7th seed is a difference. It's a huge difference maker in the wild card games, because if you're a 7, you're facing the 2 because the number 1 is out. 3 is facing the 6. 4 is facing the 5. That's how it rolls in the first round. My man, Corey, man, the grind is here. I've had a very busy week, brother, with working Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and working all these holidays, here lately. Thanksgiving too. I do have a big announcement when it comes to that stuff here shortly. There's an opening when it comes to my availability and holidays next year. So I've put in a lot of work this year, and it's paying dividends for 2025. So, but that'll come at another date. I will tell you behind the scenes there soon, my man. But Atlanta Falcons, you got to play us this Sunday. And my man Corey, that's his team. And, if he's free, I kind of want to set up a live stream where I'm sitting here at my computer desk watching the game on one screen and maybe doing a stream and doing a live reaction between myself and him, since he's a Falcons fan. If you're still watching, Corey, let me know out here in the comments. If you are free to do that, I'll set up the stream, send you the link, and you just join. And we'll talk. Even Sick Diggy can join us, and we can have a good old time talking football and watching it. As long as we're all watching it, can be a part of the current event, I think we should do it. Because I'll be free this Sunday night. That's if I don't get the tickets and don't make the way up to Northwest Stadium. That'll be plan B. But let me know in the comments if you're at least free to do that, or for the stream. Because if you say yes, I might even just say I'm just going to stay here and just do the stream with you, and that'd be more fun than doing all that work to drive there and go to the game. I can be a part of it on the internet. So we'll see. But right here and now, when it comes to your comments, I appreciate it. Sick, I will read your ad reads during the final drive, which is our next segment we're going to go to next, because I still have one more show to do tonight. And you guys will see me there for Total Football Talk Extra if you tune in after this one is over. But with that being said, let's take it to the final mother, father, and drive.
We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan never live with regret. Yes, sir.
Here with the final drive, my closing thoughts on the Commanders heading into week 17 for this team. Coming in 3 straight wins, 2 mediocre teams to start it out with the Titans and the Saints. But then you have a team that is relevant, a team that is in your division and is number 1, not only in the division, but has been gunning for number 1 in the NFC for most of the season, alongside the Detroit Lions and even the Minnesota Vikings putting their name in the hat throughout the year of doing what they've been doing to stay relevant within that conversation. And looking at it for what it is here with the final drive, I'm just proud of this Commanders team, even with 2 weeks left, to even be considering, to even be talking about them in this way, that they have double-digit victories, which I didn't anticipate that this year. Coming off of 4 wins last year, they have the potential to win these last 2 games and triple their win total from last year, which would be absolutely insane. Then Jaden Daniels is a pure lock, I believe, already for the Rookie of the Year, but Offensive Player of the Year, if he continues to do the numbers that he has been over the past month in the next 2 weeks. You throw 5 touchdowns in another game between the next 2 weeks, and another 2 or 3, and another 8 touchdowns altogether. Jaden Daniels, total for his, let's go over his total stats. We went over his game stats, but let's go over this kid's total stats while we're in the final drive right now for this season, okay? Jaden Daniels, for the season, 3,303 passing yards. He has a QBR as a rookie of 101.3. His completion percentage is at 69.7%, so rounded on up to 70, because that's pretty much what it is with the 0.7. So you round it on up, there he is. 22 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, very similar to Robert Griffin III's rookie stats. When you look at his rookie year stats for the Commanders, he had 3,200 yards, and he did this in 16 games. Jaden Daniels has already surpassed that in 15 games with 3,303 yards. RG3 had 3,200 yards in his rookie year with 20 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So JD has 2 more touchdowns and 1 less game. He also does have 3 more interceptions, but has put himself in way more attempts and passing attempts throughout this, which is why he has another 103 yards in 1 less game than what RG3 had in an entire season. So he's already crushed RG3's, rookie records for this franchise. And he did that in this past game with this 5 touchdowns. And I got to say, he's succeeded my expectations. I knew he was going to be something special based on the tape and the hype and watching some of his college games for LSU. I didn't think it would be this soon that we would get this impact. I thought Mariota would start for a while. We'd see JD towards the end in a similar way to what we're seeing what's happening in Atlanta, but maybe not while they're in a playoff hunt, like while they're like 4-11 and just want to see what he's got for the last few games of the year potentially. But here and now, when it comes to the final thoughts on this team heading into, this game with the Falcons, I believe still they're going to win by 10 plus points. That's why my prediction has them winning by 11 for both of them. One being the 38-27 prediction and the other being the 35-24. It just depends on how the run game is established, whether it's through the quarterback, through the running back, or both. When they balance it well between both the quarterback and the running back, it works out really well. I mean, you can't blame them. They are not It's just been fun watching this team in the elements because there's been roller coaster moments, but overall you see a lot of this.
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
When it comes to Dan Quinn and being the head coach, because this is something that we expected to see from him in Atlanta with Matt Ryan.
What?
I'm serious, in Atlanta with Matt Ryan.
What?
I mean, Zacchaeus was over there in Atlanta with Dan Quinn and is now over in Washington for a reason.
What?
He's a culture builder over there in Washington. He truly is.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
I'm serious. He was a culture builder over there in Atlanta, and when he left, it all fell apart. But look at what happened with old Artie. He came over there and couldn't maintain what was established over there because he didn't provide the same energy that Coach Quinn does. I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
Oh, my brother, testify.
Was that a total?
Surprise, motherfucker.
Shout to those of you who are still tuned in right now while we are live or watching this during the replay, as we are almost at the 90-minute mark. With that being said, again, 10-plus point prediction for this victory this upcoming Sunday night. I hope I can be there in attendance. We'll see if I can have a surprise post-Christmas early birthday present, for that being January 7th, to myself, if I can make it, with the ability to do that because I am off on Monday. I'm going to try. Phone calls and texts are being made between now and the next 24 hours, and if it's lined up, I may be going Sunday night. We shall see. But when it comes to the final drive, when it comes to this show, if you haven't seen it yet, I mean, again, go back and watch on Sartoba Media. Shenanigans at its finest. Taco Tuesday Destroyed Santa is now available for the episode 30 of the D. Willie in the Evening franchise. Go back and check out that episode. It's the last episode before the holiday break that I took. Go back and watch that. It was produced from last Thursday night, and we will not probably have another one on this network for another 2 to 3 to 4 weeks at most, another month at most, because I'm going to take a little break for the holidays from doing all the editing and the production work from this one. Even though it's fun, I got some other things going on with the holidays and with my birthday and with taking some time off from work. I didn't want to spend all of it working on content, even though I still have time balanced in throughout each off day to do content and edit some certain things. I didn't want it to be what I mainly did. So that's why this is taking a little bit of a break. But go back and watch that episode. It is funny, just like the Evil Little People episode. You can watch all that basically via my links here from my personal pages and Instagram, X. You got Threads, Snapchat, Facebook, all right here within those handles. You can go check out the Sartoba Media platforms on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and X right there, as well as at Sartoba.com, which I'm going to be working on that a little bit during this off time as well. We talked about JD throwing 5 touchdowns before this final drive, winning this game 36-24. 33. In this final drive with Sick Diggy and his comments, we got to acknowledge a couple things. I got to do a couple ad reads that I skipped over earlier. I told him I would save for the end before we went to the outro. Gotta get some water first because I have done a good amount of talking. I've been amped up because this team, it has been fun to watch. I even bought a jersey this year, you know, because I only wore the Redskins stuff and I still have that stuff in the closet in the other room. But I actually bought the fire black jersey that I like with the gold and the burgundy on it as well. But for you, Sick, I'm going to do this ad read after I take a sip of this water. This edition of the Commanders Gridiron Report is brought to you by Slam Hard Barbecue. Let the fire pit saturate your burning furnace. And Godsmack Thirst Quenchers, evil green wing kiwi and lemon lime. Steal the thirst like it's how the Grinch stole Christmas. Mother, Father, and Christmas, the shenanigery at its finest. Hopefully, I didn't let him down when it comes to, finally, Slickster's Bakery, the slickest bakers this side of the Potomac. Slickster's Bakery, we cater to all, and we're slick about it. I try to do the finally like The Rock does. Finally! Hopefully I didn't let you down with that there, Sick. I might have to rise up with the clip on that one. And I got to get Corey Shorts out there on the YouTube channel this weekend too. I got to do better with that. So shout out to those of you who are watching. That is an acknowledgement of myself. I mean, we all are not perfect and we all have to improve on certain things. And I'll just be glad when we grow out here as a team for this unit known as Sartoba Media, which I will click the
Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
And we rise up. And not just in this show, but with hopefully a few more hands to help me out here with certain marketing and certain things so I can, you know, focus on the things that I'm definitely the best contributor in towards the brand and the growth and how I can help others who want to improve on their potential production qualities as well, because there's other things in 2025 that I hope to achieve within this project for the Commanders Gridiron Report, as well as for the platform in Sartoba Media and those who are collaborating with us out here, Team MBS, Washington on the Daily, those of you out there collaborating for this project right here, and Comey Media, and Kyle Nash, and Travis Holmes, Cole Johnson, Corey Mann with the Grind Media, all of you out there who contribute for this brand and for the help of me and what I can do, and vice versa. I greatly appreciate it, guys. It means a lot. That we all rise up together on this, and that's why we have fun with what we do. And Corey says, let me know if you get the tickets. My brother was trying to get me to go to the game. I got to work Monday morning. If not, I'd be there. At this moment, I should be free Sunday night. Okay, so you're down to do the stream. I'll just stay home. I'll just stay home, do the stream with you if you are down. If you are still watching this thing, let me know if you are free to do the stream. If that's a guarantee to do the stream, I will set it up. And we'll do a live reaction, me hanging out in this platform and you from your event, just like we're doing the In or Out Sports Debate, but just watching this game and reacting as you a representative of the Falcons and me a representative of the Commanders. Sick may be joining in with his 2 cents. I'll send him the link. And whoever else wants to have some fun out here with us while we review in real time the Atlanta Falcons Commanders game. I think I might have to pull a snowman and do this. Might even have to get him in there to talk. Who knows? Send a bunch of invitations over the next 24 hours. I think on Sunday we'll do this because of it won't take much work to, pre-plan it, and we'll just be able to sit here and talk. There won't be a bunch of graphics I'll have to make beforehand. So I think we'd be down to do all that. Myself, maybe Snowman, maybe Sick. I'm not speaking out of turn for them, but we'll see what they all got to say. We'll discuss this off the air and see what happens. We'll table it for now while we're still live. And with that being said, thank you for watching episode 39 of the Commanders Gridiron Report. We've only got one more thing left to do. That is to remind you that we'll say here in the next 30 minutes, we'll give it to about 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, give myself a little bit of a breather, grab a snack, use the restroom, stretch, and then we'll have Total Football Talk Extra. LeBron with the crybaby self on Christmas, talking about how Christmas Day is for the NBA and not for the NFL. That's what it sounds like for LeBron right there. With the Netflix robes and all between the Ravens and Chiefs. We'll talk about that and more on this episode of Total Football Talk. But right now, we're concluding the Commanders Gridiron Report, episode 39 on December 27th, the final episode of 2024. A lot of episodes before. When we started this year off in January, we were recapping a shit-tastic Week 18 and what this Commanders team had been through to round out that final game against the Cowboys on my birthday, losing 38-10 for the Week 18 contest. I was rounding that game out and talking about it, and then we go from that to the preseason to deciding that Jaden Daniels is going to be the quarterback, and then we go from that point right there to being right here with a chance to be in the playoffs. They're going to win this game against the Falcons. We'll talk more about the Cowboy game next week. I'll see you guys on this platform, hopefully Tuesday afternoon. If not, by this time next Friday, I'll see you on this show. But hopefully, I'm going to try to get it done Tuesday morning before I go to work if possible. With all that being said, we've only got one more thing left to do. Let's look at one badass outro. For myself, Drew Willingham, I've only got one thing left to show you and tell you, and that is to stay safe out here in these streets.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side, Commanders, where my soldiers, left side, Commanders, where my soldiers, watch the middle, Commanders, where my soldiers, now we step, where my soldiers, right side, Commanders, where my soldiers, left side, now we step, where my soldiers, watch the middle, Commanders, where my soldiers, hit 'em.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
You don't have to go home, but you got to get yourself on up out of here. Episode 39 has come to a conclusion. If you made it all the way to the end watching live or in the replay, remember, in 30 minutes, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, or by 7:05 p.m. at the latest, we're knocking out episode 19 of Total Football Talk Extra. I'll see you then. Adios.